The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
All right, here we go. It's March. Let the madness begin. Sort of the SEC basketball tournament for Tennessee. And also, we're going to talk some football. Ron Slay will join us as he does each and every Friday throughout basketball season. So we've got him for at least a couple of more. Looking forward to that, of the SEC Network and also of ESPN. Greg Sankey wants to lower the amount of automatic bids to the NCAA basketball tournament. What? 14-team playoff. I think it's going to happen. I think it's done. Spring special teams preview thanks to Josh Ward. Will Tennessee ever be a blue blood in basketball? Discuss with Ron Slay. Butch Jones groomers is what I want to get to right now. First, Caleb Calhoun. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Happy Friday, Dave. It's St. Patty's weekend.
It is St. Patty's weekend. I love how we take other people's, other ethnicities, other races, other cultures, best holidays, and we turn them into holidays just for drinking and getting hammered drunk. But that's for another story. Hit the like.
Cinco de Mayo is actually more American than it is Mexican, funny enough, if you know.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But I think you would agree the list goes on and on. Hit that like and subscribe button. I'm waiting for the big Yom Kippur get together. Yom Kippur shots. It's a matter of time until we get there.
Don't you have to fast on Yom Kippur? Isn't that the rule?
I don't know.
And the other question is, can you? I got to ask my friend who is Muslim. It's Ramadan right now. Can you drink during Ramadan? That's another question.
I don't know. Hit the like and subscribe button. Let's do that now. Butch Jones groomers. I didn't get an opportunity to get into much of this back in the day because I wasn't covering Tennessee on a day-to-day basis nearly as close as I am now. But I knew from afar that the Jon Gruden rumors were just groomers and that he never was really interested in Tennessee. There were a couple of people at Tennessee that optimistically thought they might be able to go get him, but I never believed it. Did you believe that on the message board? Let me hear from you. Hit the like and subscribe button. So let's pull this up. Are we playing this, Caleb, or are we just showing a picture of Butch Jones?
No, we'll play it. It's only 23 seconds. You ready to hear what he had to say about Gruden this week?
I'm ready.
Let's get to going.
So I really challenged our coaching staff to get out. You know, Jon Gruden's a good friend of mine. We went down and spent a full day with him as an offensive staff. I thought that was enlightening to a lot of our young coaches of how you present, how you teach, how you manage your room, how you do your meetings, and then obviously from a schematical standpoint as well. So I really...
Oh, that's it. Sorry.
All right. So let's get to today's tough question. And that is right now. And it's brought to you by Boundless Moving.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right. So I'm going to ask this pretty simple. Who would be a worse coach at Tennessee? Is it Jon Gruden and what we know, or is it Butch Jones? Today's tough question. We'll get that posted on the YouTube page so you can vote. It'll be our poll question as well. Caleb, what say you, sir? I'll give you first go at this.
Well, we have the resume for Butch Jones at Tennessee, and I think Butch Jones would be the worst coach because I just think Butch Jones is dumber. I mean, it's I'm sorry. It's I know between Fulmer and Heupel, Butch Jones had more success than any other of the other head coaches, But Josh Ward is going to has totally disagreed with me in the past, and so has Fred White on this. So there's people who have come on the show that disagree. I think Butch Jones still inherited a much better situation than Derek Dooley inherited, honestly, or than Jimmy Pruitt inherited. And
we could certainly debate that. None of them were great. I think we would all agree there. Portions of the program and today's tough question brought to you by Boundless Moving. From a 2-hour minimum to turnkey operations, they have you covered. Their motto, personal service without limits. Not just a tagline, part of who they are. That's who I use. And they were fantastic in East Tennessee and North Carolina. I want to say you're right, because I didn't think there was any proof that Jon Gruden would have been a great coach at Tennessee back when everybody wanted him and had fallen in love with him. I think the NFL and college football head coaching is about two completely separate things. But I don't know how you could possibly hire the racist. I mean, he has proven that he uses racial epithets, and not just some of them, but the worst one and all of them in emails. I don't know how you would ever win a locker room over, Caleb, given the history. I think that would be awful in recruiting. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Butch Jones, aside from the morality, just pragmatically, would have more success at Tennessee. Let's say if Josh Heupel decided he wanted to go to the NFL, Butch Jones would have more success than Jon Gruden. And there is literally no doubt in my mind because of the racial overtones. Am I crazy?
Well, we didn't know about those racial overtones until a few years ago. So is this Jon Gruden after those are out now? You're saying after they're out?
This is right now. Okay, this is right now. The position becomes open because Josh Heupel just got hired by the Dallas Cowboys, and the god of football tells you only have two choices.
I'm still taking Jon Gruden. And by the way, and here's the biggest reason, Dave. You can say that about Gruden, but the stuff of Gruden is out now, and Butch Jones was still stupid enough to tell people that Gruden's a good friend of his and that he had his coaches go learn from Gruden. Think about that for a minute. Why would you say that now after the stuff came out?
I do not know.
Only Butch Jones would be dumb enough to do that.
Colton, I just joined. Why? And the brick by brick is this still a topic? Because Butch Jones said that he went to visit with Jon Gruden at some point to pick up his coaching acumen. A lot of coaches do this. This isn't a great surprise. So Butch Jones needs to learn from people. I just don't see how you could possibly ever repair a relationship that you would have with potential players and potential minorities when you've said what Jon Gruden has said. I would rather have the dodo sociopath. And you really had to work hard to, I don't know. He was such a, well, I take it. I don't know. He's bad for the university. He's bad to have on campus. He could actually cause someone some physical harm by inciting a fight because he's a sociopath. There's so many things wrong with him, but I just can't go with a tried and true racist.
Okay, so what
I feel like we're choosing between different forms of cancer or something. This is just awful.
Here's the funny part about this is that when we talk about connecting with coaches, when Butch Jones first took over at Tennessee, he invited Eric Spoelstra to come talk to the team. Do you remember that, Dave? The Miami Heat coach? And that should have been a red flag then, because I go back and watch those Heat teams. Eric Spoelstra was not a good coach. He just had LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. Like, you and I could have won an NBA Finals championship with that team, right? And Butch Jones brings Eric Spoelstra and sold like 2-time NBA champion to talk to the players. I'm like, what is Eric Spoelstra going to go share? He's going to get a bunch of superstars and you can win without doing anything. But my conspiracy theory is this. Is this why Jon Gruden didn't take the Tennessee job? Did he not take the Tennessee job out of loyalty to Butch Jones?
No, I don't think he took the Tennessee job because he didn't want to be a recruiter. Do you think he wanted to be a recruiter? That sounds awful to me. I mean, that doesn't sound like any fun. I never believed that he wanted to do that. I never believed that he wanted to be the recruiter. And I would have I would have bet on it. Speaking of, bet US 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits, and I would have won. I wouldn't have needed the 10% gambler's insurance because I was right. Bet US, a proud partner of Off the Hook Sports, 125% bonus. Use that. It's phenomenal.
America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
You said that for funsies. You don't really believe that Jon Gruden nor Butch Jones would do something for the security or betterment of someone else, right? We're talking about a couple of guys that are pretty self-centered.
I mean, didn't Bill Callahan share the Raiders playbook with Jon Gruden in the Super Bowl because he thought Jon Gruden was wronged for being fired? And didn't he throw that Super Bowl when Oakland played Tampa Bay in 2003?
Oh, I certainly haven't heard that. That sounds pretty out there, right?
That's been a very long time rumor that Bill Callahan had a genuine problem with how Al Davis treated Jon Gruden, and Jon Gruden was his friend. So when the Raiders got to the Super Bowl to play Tampa Bay, the rumor is Bill Callahan gave Jon Gruden the whole Raiders playbook and basically threw the Super Bowl just to get back at Al Davis. That's the rumor, which is how Jon Gruden got his only Super Bowl. Now, I am going to confess something, Dave, and I should put it out here now because I get things wrong. When I was at my old job, I drove the groomer train a little bit in 2017.
You shouldn't have done that. You should have called me.
I didn't know you, and I'm not as tied into the program. I believe, but Paul Feinbaum hinted at it. Paul Feinbaum on his show hinted. The reason I did it was Paul Feinbaum on his show hinted that the boosters were about to cobble up a bunch of money to go get Jon Gruden. Now, Dave, I actually think that part's true. I think a lot of boosters did try to cobble up money to get Jon Gruden. Jon Gruden wasn't interested. Is that fair to say?
I think there were a small group that did let's say like a cocktail napkin draw up of how they could get together some cash. I don't think there was like a formal presentation and a spreadsheet and all that good stuff.
Okay. So I think I had thought that in 2013 or 2012, the reason Tennessee didn't get Gruden is I thought Dave Hart was not willing to spend the money at the time. Now, I owe Dave Hart an apology. I owe everybody everybody who read me driving the groomers train apology. I even wrote a potential staff, and I'm like, Jim Bob Cooter would be offensive coordinator. And I mean, I had the whole staff.
Fine. I'm not blaming you. And let's face it, Paul Feinbaum was probably poking the bear a little bit, but Paul does have really good sources at Tennessee. One of them from time to time has been me, but Caleb, he does have good sources at Tennessee because I'm sure we all saw the picture of him meeting with the president of the communications department. That wasn't just to exchange Thanksgiving recipes. That was, hey, Paul, I'm pretty aware of what you make because Disney's a publicly traded company. How about give us some cash? So if you give them a little bit of cash, you tend to get better access, I would think.
I've always trusted Paul Feinbaum's like 2/3 of his radio show I've always loved. The other part is the Alabama fans who call into the show. And so, I mean, that's the part I don't love. But I
think he's a good interviewer. I think that
I agree. And I usually
interview people for a long time.
I don't think he was lied to. I think Paul Feinbaum was going based on what sources were telling him. And I think it was the boosters and sources at Tennessee that really thought they were going to get Jon Gruden at the time.
Believe so. Yeah, that would be the case. So yeah, there's something posted on our message board that I'm just not completely ready to discuss here. I'm going to send you a message of perhaps some serious news, and let's see if we can get that confirmed because I'm not quite ready to go there until I'm 100% sure. So we're going to get that confirmed. I saw it on the message board. And if you're on the message board, given that I've got like 2 friends probably in the coaching community that I covered, I pray that this was not true. One of the things that has been posted on the message board. So I just pray that's not true, but we're going to do some digging on that during the program. All right. Tennessee is in the SEC tournament, and it looks like they're battling North Carolina and perhaps to some extent Arizona, Caleb, for that last number 1 seed. We'll see what everybody does, but let me ask you, Caleb, when you start to look at grabbing the last number 1 seed, how much does it help North Carolina, you think, that they're a blue blood? And Arizona is about as close to a blue blood as you can be. Do you think that plays into the decision-making factor when the selection committee is determining a number 1 or 2?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a huge factor. We've seen evidence of that over the years. We've seen it on the women's side. Guys, how many times has the Tennessee Lady Vols over the past, in the post-Pat Summitt era, gotten a home weekend in the NCAA tournament when they shouldn't have even been a 6 or 7 seed, but they got a 4 seed? Because they know that Tennessee in the NCAA tournament is going to drive fans to the game. And I think it's the same with the Blue Bloods. Now, it's a little bit different on the men's side, because here's the truth of the matter. You want to draw ratings, and does it draw ratings for North Carolina to play Bucknell, or does it draw ratings for North Carolina to play a more imposing team, which they might do as a lower seed? But you operate under the assumption they're going to beat Bucknell. And the other way you look at it is by playing North Carolina playing Bucknell, that game involving Bucknell will have higher ratings than if another team played Bucknell. I'm sorry for taking a shot at Bucknell. I don't know if they're in the tournament. I haven't done my full research.
My mother went to Bucknell.
I apologize, Dave. So, yes, I think that's a factor. I think the selection committee, they go by, this is the ranking of order of how they do their seeding. Number 1 is the BPI, the Basketball Power Index. It used to be the RPI, which was stupid because schedule strength was like 75% of your RPI rankings. But the Basketball Power Index is number 1. I think number 2 is the actual rankings, AP and coaches poll and things like that. And I think number 3, the smallest tiebreaker, becomes Blue Bloods. And I think that makes the difference for them.
Okay. Can I tell you what Tennessee should do and the SEC should do to avoid any potential issue with that in the future? Is they should go out and get Duke and North Carolina. And listen, I know that everybody, and you have to get out of the ACC contract. I'm comparing this to Caleb's contention that you should get Clemson and FSU, which I love that idea too. This is like talking about 2 candidates for Mrs. Universe. That is ultimately what we're discussing is 2 ultimate options. Add Clemson, Florida State, get stronger in football. But I say add Duke and North Carolina, get stronger in basketball. So you win these blue blood arguments. And Caleb, it might not be me. I just turned 50. I'm 50. As I think it was Molly Shannon said one time on.
It sounded like Sandy from SpongeBob right there.
Yeah.
I'm from Texas.
I'm 50. I'm 50. All right. So, but Caleb, I believe you would win these sorts of arguments and you would be the best basketball conference. So it might not be me because I'm 50, but it might be Caleb who's in his 30s, see the SEC be the premier basketball conference in the nation. And that combined with football, hey, you come to me, as Caleb likes to say, come at me, television networks, because I'm going to jack up your rate because I'm the basketball conference and I'm the football conference. If you love that idea, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate that. I want to remind you that portions of the program are brought to you by our good friend Don Self. Spoke to him yesterday. Always love doing it. Customer service still matters. For over 40 years, they have built their business on taking care of their customers in the greater Chattanooga area. Call 423-396-2126 or go to donself.net. That's donself.net, 423-396-2126, donself.net. Let's face it, the SEC can't get any better in football, can they? They're already considered one of the 2 creme de la creme, if not the creme de la creme, the elite in football. Why not get better in the other revenue-producing sports?
I don't really think it matters about getting better in any revenue-producing sport. I think it matters about generating the revenue and having a footprint. And quite honestly, I'd rather focus on football in that regard. So I'd rather take Florida State and Clemson. And then, I say go 20 deep as a conference and take Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and Virginia. That'd be my 4 picks if I could get. And by the way, so you get two blue bloods, North Carolina. And I mean, we could probably say that Virginia is a semi blue blood now, right? In basketball. I mean, they did win the national title in 2019.
They don't feel like a blue blood. Arizona feels more like a blue blood to me, but that's debatable.
All right, how about this? Here's a compromise, Dave. This is a compromise. Man, Dabo and everybody down there is going to cuss me out. But how about Florida State, North Carolina, Duke, and Virginia, and Clemson is the one iced out?
Well, I think the SEC would dominate lacrosse, is what SC Scott Guy says. I think that the debate we're going to have is basically Duke, right? Because Duke, you're going all in and saying that this is going to be a basketball conference to some extent, right?
Right.
But it's not going to, that's not a football get. I mean, it's a football respectable program, but you could argue you'd rather have Arizona as the SEC because you would open up recruiting doors out there. Not that they're going to go Big Ten and go crazy geo on anybody, but Duke is the big conversation because it would be the first school you went out and took for basketball as a sport instead of football. That would be the big change, right?
Yes, but I think they could just take North Carolina at that point, which would be a larger revenue producing school. It's still a basketball school, and it's not a school that doesn't give two what's about football the way Duke is. And North Carolina draws ticket sales. Duke has a 5,000 seat arena. North Carolina has a 25,000 seat arena. North Carolina's football stadium is certainly bigger. And so I think in every way, North Carolina's better.
No, not Cameron Indoor now. Hold on.
I'm sorry, you're not going to get the same revenue from Cameron that you are going to get from North Carolina's basketball arena.
Oh, it's television revenue. Are you talking about just because? Are you talking about just because they don't have as many seats? Seats don't matter anymore.
Okay, this is why I'm saying the SEC is going to 20 teams eventually. So you can take Duke and UNC. The other teams you take, I think you also take Virginia in that because I think you want a footprint in every southeastern state, right? If you're the SEC eventually.
Not me. I would break because Virginia, for a native Southerner, and you are too, only feels kind of like a Southern state. I was thinking that the other day.
Virginia Tech is more Southern than Virginia.
I would agree
Virginia
with that.
Tech is. But Virginia draws money. Virginia brings in the revenue. They draw. And Kentucky's not really a Southern state. They were sided with the Union in the Civil War.
I know. I'm not going back that far. It feels Mideast to me. It just feels Mideast. It doesn't feel, maybe that's how we broke it up with ESPN of guys that I cover. It feels just more Mideast to me. Here's my issue though. I don't, if I'm the SEC, want to take North Carolina if I don't get Duke. I don't want to break up that rivalry as a sports fan, as me, Dave Hooker, not necessarily as what's best for the SEC, because the SEC would take North Carolina, forget about Duke, and move on its merry way and not have a problem with it because it's all about you. It's all about doing what's best for the conference, best for the guys that pay you money. But Caleb, I would hate to see Duke and North Carolina broken up. I don't know about you, but when that game is hyped up, like when they're 1-2 or 1-5, I think that series, that rivalry, more than any in sports, lives up to the billing more often than any regular series. Would you argue that point? More than Redskins, Cowboys, more than Red Sox, Yankees. I think it lives up to the billing as far as a good game most of the time.
Oh, as far as the game itself, yes, but as far as the meaning of the game, no, because college basketball regular season games don't mean anything because people like Dave like expanded playoffs, which we'll get to later.
I love that game, and I'll watch it in the ACC.
I think
if they play,
yeah, there used to be a time where I felt like Michigan, Ohio State, and football lived up to the billing the most, but that's completely gone out the window now because it's been so one-sided either way over the past 20 years in football with Michigan, Ohio State. I would argue that, okay, yes, what if you get North Carolina and no Duke? Fine. But if you get Virginia, UNC Virginia is still a great rivalry. And also, so what? You get North Carolina, Kentucky. How epic would that be every year? North Carolina and Kentucky playing each other twice.
I'm good with that. I'm good. North Carolina, Kentucky, you'd have, I think Kentucky Duke would turn into something. Obviously, North Carolina Duke would be something. You would be the premier college basketball conference, period.
And here's the big point, and we need to bring this back to Tennessee for a minute. Tennessee is more of a basketball school than a football school right now, guys, if you look at the success of the last 15 years. Not even close.
Okay,
Tennessee.
Well, that's insane, but fine.
Tennessee is pushing blue blood tier in basketball. Tennessee is a national championship away from a blue blood tier in basketball. They are a national championship away. Now, let me just say this. If Tennessee were to win the national championship and become a blue blood, and North Carolina were to join the SEC, do you guys realize the epic rivalry Tennessee and North Carolina could have in basketball? The rivalry of the Appalachians.
I'm down. I don't think Tennessee is as much of a blue blood because of going way, way back history, but I see what you're saying with recency bias. I'm gonna have to report on something, but man, I don't want to. And I remember being on the air on a Saturday morning when the space shuttle broke up, and I was live on the air, and we had to address it. So I'm gonna address something right now, and I pray that I don't have all the information, that it's not true. Caleb, in Nashville, Tennessee, a man arrested in Utah on Thursday in connection with the death of his girlfriend and her 5-month-old fetus. Nashville police have confirmed. Police say Blaze Taylor, who was arrested by deputy U.S. Marshals at the request of the police department in Utah after a grand jury indictment. Taylor charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder for the poisoning deaths of Jade Benning on March the 6th, 2023, her 25th birthday, and the unborn baby, which Taylor is alleged to have fathered. Caleb,
we have to be clear who
Yes.
Blaze Taylor is.
I'm getting there.
Sorry.
So Blaze Taylor is the son of former Tennessee assistant coach Trooper Taylor, which I think that I have told you before is one of my few. You really, it's tough to have friendships when you're in the media and you cover a coach, especially with what they went through in the undoing of the Philip Fulmer regime and all that was going on in that time. But I do consider him a friend, and I pray like there's no tomorrow that this isn't true. That for some reason he's been falsely persecuted. That I just pray this isn't true. This is actually absolutely heartbreaking. And I can't imagine. I mean, this is way, way bigger than football. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset to some extent. We're going to come back and we're going to look at Jimmy Hahn's column. Talks about what Josh Heupel needs to address in spring practice and also a special teams preview. But there's just no great way of providing the transition here. So I look forward to getting back to that and talking some football. Hang tight with me. He is Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports.
Got cataracts? We can fix that. Never miss another moment. With a little help from Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn at cctis.com.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
We believe every day is a good day to be thirsty. With free samples on draft and lots of flavors to choose from, Tennessee Cider Company prepares a hard cider that's easy to enjoy. Some say it's the signature cider of the South. Others say it's the cure to your craving. They all say you'll savor every sip. The area of Gatlinburg has so much to offer, and so does Tennessee Cider Company. Add us to your list for shopping and fun experiences. You'll be glad you made the trip. Find our cidery in the Mountain Mall on the Gatlinburg Parkway. Sip smart. Sip the good stuff. Sip Tennessee Cider Company. Thirsty yet? Doors open at 10 a.m.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, who is it?
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
How would you like to be a John? Join Hooker's Corner, just $9.98 for extended recruiting coverage, direct access to me and Caleb Calhoun. Get your questions answered. Also on there, if you have questions for Fred White or Spencer Riley or those sorts of things, some technical questions I might not be able to ask, we're going to have a format up there where I can pass along questions and get them to some former Vols. So we're excited about adding that. But also, by becoming a member for just $9.98, you will receive the ability to win a weekly prize, which will be an NCAA t-shirt today, the state of Tennessee versus the NCAA. You can buy that on our website, on our merch shop. Check it out on offthehooksports.com. But you can win one today, and we will give one of those away. And also monthly, we give away a grand prize for March. It's the Brew McCoy autographed mini helmet. So become a John. Join on there, just $9.98 a month. And Caleb, we got to talk about yesterday, and it's up there for our paying members. It is a breakdown of a 4-star offensive tackle that Tennessee is making a really strong push at.
Yes, that is very true. Douglas Utu, coming out of Nevada, and go take a look at our talk on that. Tennessee has a few connections to the high school that he's coming out of in Nevada, so they have a very good chance to land him.
Yep, they could send Quiet Storm to recruit him. Do you know who Quiet Storm is?
No.
CJ Watson.
Oh, that's right, because they initially called him the Perfect Storm, and then Bruce Pearl changed his name to the Quiet Storm.
That's not the story he told. He said it was his sister when he was 8, but we can go with your story.
Well, Bruce Pearl took the credit for that, and Bruce Pearl is a known liar.
That's really stunning. Maybe Bruce Pearl took all of the buyout money, including his assistants, when he left the University of Tennessee.
And maybe his daughter was part of a pilot scam. Okay, sorry.
Yes, that took advantage of minorities at convenience stores. Hit the like and subscribe button if you want to hear more salacious news on the program. We're with you each and every weekday at 10 a.m. We certainly would love for you to hit that notifications.
And you wondered why I included him with like some of the unlikable coaches yesterday.
No, I completely understand. All right, so want to get to the one, the only Jimmy Himes, who joins us each and every Wednesday. His appearance is brought to you by our good friends at Ray Varner Ford. He was nice enough to put together 5 things that Josh Heupel needs to accomplish during spring camp. And as always, Jimmy's contributions to Off the Hook Sports are brought to you by our good friends at Ray Varner Ford.
F-150 4x4 Super Cab, $44,992. A 2023 Ford Escape all-wheel drive, $30,952. 2023 F-150 4x4 Super Crew XLT, $54,900. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
All right, we got to jump in the hot tub. It's 4 downs now. Let's talk some spring camp. What? Spring? Here we go.
4 Downs brought to you by Dynasty Spas, the most comfortable spas made in the United States of America, right here in East Tennessee. Drop in for the all-new showroom in Athens. Dynasty Spas, perfect for all 4 seasons. 4 Downs, presented by Off the Hook Sports.
All right, let's hop in the hot tub, the spa with Cooper Mays. Coop, what should people do to take part in what we do on a weekly basis, a weekday basis at 10 a.m.?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
All right, do that. And we're talking about Josh Heupel, what he needs to address in spring camp. Let's go first down. First down, Coop.
Coop here. First down.
Thank you. So first down, Jimmy Himes with the column right on offthehooksports.com. The biggest questions UT needs to resolve this spring. Plan B, find a quarterback too. We don't discuss that a lot because I think if Nico goes down, the expectations get completely reset. But if he goes down for a quarter or a game against an opponent that you could beat, you would want somebody that would be able to step in there and be able to keep the ship heading in the right direction. So plan B, quarterback number 2, is a key for the Vols.
Josh Heupel's had 2 starting quarterbacks at Tennessee so far, Joe Milton and Hendon Hooker. Both have been knocked out of games because and had to miss starts because they got hurt. It seems very unlikely that, I don't want to say unlikely, but it seems very possible that could happen again with Nico Iamaleava. So that's a big, yes, they need to find a second quarterback. We'll assume it's going to be Jake Merklinger, right?
I would be stunned if it's not.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see Gaston Moore taking it, or Navy Schuler taking it. All due respect to Heath Schuler's son. But yeah, I think it's probably going to be Jake Merklinger. I think this spring is about developing Merklinger more than anything else.
All right. What down, Coop?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right. Jimmy writes, target practice, identify a receiver rotation. So we're going to trust that Brew McCoy is healthy, because I've been told that, and Jimmy writes basically to that effect, that he's going to be ready to go. Didn't specifically address the injury. But then you talk about Oregon transfer Dante Thornton. He started to make some noise last year and got hurt on the very play that he made noise. Mike Matthews, a 5-star prospect. Chris Brazel caught 44 passes at Tulane last season. Then you have 4-star signee Braylon Staley as well. Tennessee has to find that rotation. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that it is Brew McCoy, Dante Thornton on the outside, which I'm not crazy about, and then I'm going to say Brazel in the slot. But I wouldn't be surprised if Dante Thornton, if they continue to push the slot narrative from what I've been told. I'm about 51 to 49% that he would be on the outside. Caleb?
I think it's going to be Brew McCoy, Squirrel White in the slot. And I think you're going to see Dante Thornton emerge on the other side. Now, I think you should have faith in Josh Heupel to shorten his rotation, because he's big on that. But Dave, I want to ask you, because you've covered more teams than I have. When you see a team with a shortened rotation of go-to receivers, and then you see a team that's just, these teams that are so disorganized, they have like 6 receivers and can't find a guy. Is that based on the coaching, or is that based on when there's like that many receivers, they really couldn't find a go-to target usually?
It depends. I think there's something to be said for rotating your 3rd, 4th, 5th guy in. Well, in this case, it's a 3 wide receiver set, but I'm going back into the day of the pro set. I think there's reason for rotating those guys in, but you need a receivers coach that's really good at testing the temperature of the room, if I may say, in that he knows who needs to go and win. So I don't think that's a philosophical difference. I think that a lot like Chuck Smith sent 14 defensive tackles on the field against LSU back when, you have to have an assistant coach who's in charge of the subs that you trust. That's
okay,
all.
so let me...
Did I answer your question in a roundabout way?
Yeah, let me go specifically then, because I distinctly remember the 04-05 teams with Robert Meacham, Jason Swain, and all those guys, and they ran like 5 or 6 receivers out. And do you remember Cutcliffe takes over? And Cutcliffe, everybody talks about age, but I think you remember significantly, didn't Cutcliffe pretty much say we're running too many receivers right now? We got to shorten the rotation.
I don't remember that he said that, but I know that we've discussed it before. I know that that's what he did. He ran fewer. Now, I've thought about you saying that earlier. I think that there's a combination of things going on. I think you're right. I think he wanted to shorten the rotation, but I also believe, Caleb, that there was a drop-off outside of Brett Smith, Swain, and Meacham. You would agree with that, right? I can't really even remember off the top of my head who the 4th best receiver
was. Lucas Taylor was probably the 4th receiver at that time.
Lucas was good. He was like a Craig Faulkner type.
He was a 1,000-yard receiver when he came in 2007. But yeah, there was, Meacham, Swain, and Meacham. I think there was a drop off after Robert Meacham. I'm just gonna say, let's just put that out there, okay? I think Cutcliffe saw what, and this is where I knock Randy Sanders and Pat Washington. That's a name you haven't heard in a while, right? Pat Washington, and where I don't think they recognized the talent they had in Robert Meacham. I think Cutcliffe did. But am I wrong for saying that?
No. I don't think you're wrong for saying that. Me Drinker says there will be some receivers hitting the portal after spring, I think. Well, I do too.
That's still a good thing if they are, though.
I like Nimrod. I'm not so sure about Webb. And I'm really not sure about either. I kind of like Nimrod is a better way to put it, Caleb. But if these guys see Matthews, Staley, and Brazel running around, and you know how short the rotation can be because you've been around the program, it might not be a bad idea to hop in that spring portal. Hit like and subscribe, please. I mean, I see them as guys that could get lost in the shuffle if they haven't taken a Jalen Hyatt type step in the offseason.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right. I absolutely agree.
I mean, they better be careful, because if you slip outside this receiver rotation, you don't get back in it.
Right. No, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, I think they'll both. I think they're both going to be gone. I think you're right.
All right. What down now? It's 4 Downs, brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas showroom in Athens. They deliver up to 150 miles. That means Chattanooga and Knoxville. What down, Coop?
Tennessee Center, Cooper Mays here. 3rd down.
Dynasty Pools and Spas right there in Athens. Check out the showroom. Left-hand man, writes Jimmy Himes on offthehooksports.com. You've got to bolster the offensive line, particularly at left guard. We think Lance Hurd's going to be left tackle. How about left guard?
Yes,
could be. I'm sorry. I was just going to say it could be Andre Keurig, Texas transfer, who was all right last year, or Jackson Lampley, or a signee. Do you have to make a decision at that position when you leave spring camp, or do you just have to have a good feel for it? Where would you like to be if you're Josh Heupel in a month?
I think the biggest thing probably is I think you want at least 2 options in a month. I just don't know who those 2 options are. I think that.
Okay, may I say quickly, you sound a little like Dan Brooks that said you'd like to have 8 defensive tackles at an all-SEC level if you can. Okay, so what you're saying is very, very optimistic that you would like to have 2 out of this group.
I just don't think they're going to have 2.
Yeah, because you didn't have 1 out of this group last year. My realistic goal is to say, Andre Keurig, you played at Texas. You got paid to come to Tennessee. Surely you've been here a year. It's time to be the starter. That's my goal. He needs to be the 1A and 1B guy. And if you need to get Lampley ready behind him, that's fine. But as far as the starter, if Keurig doesn't grab that role in spring camp, I've got real concern about A, the offensive line, and B, the fact that I decided as a coach to give him a scholarship.
Well, that Jackson Lampley switch has flipped, man. He is so serious about that lawsuit, though, that he's going to play his butt off this year. So he's going to emerge in the spring. I'm sorry.
Yeah, very good. Very good. All right. What down for Dynasty Pools and Spas?
All SEC Center, Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
All right. So there are 2 that I want to address, and that's the back end of the defense. The linebacker room has to get better. The defensive backs have to get better. But I remind you first that 4 Downs, brought to you by our friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. Go to dynastypoolsandspas.com, www.dynastypoolsandspas.com. Having the best spas made right here in the United States of America in your backyard. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Their showroom is open in Athens, right off the interstate. You can stop by and check out the best hot tubs and spas in the market. And in delivery, yes, they can do that to Knoxville or Chattanooga. They've got complete support, spa cover, and chemicals to keep your spa bubbling at its best. They also have pool chemicals as well. Dynasty Pools and Spas, amazing discounts for first responders, military, and even some blemish models that can save you a ton, and no one will ever notice. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Go to dynastypoolsandspas.com or stop by that showroom in Athens. dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas. You lose Aaron Beasley, you get Keenan Pili back with an extra year of eligibility, torn bicep in the season opener last year, but having him back, he's now 58 years old, no, 26, but he will have a major impact on this team from a leadership and play standpoint. Arian Carter, I think, is an emerging star. Jeremiah Thielander, I hear great things about, but we haven't necessarily seen it on the field. Elijah Herring, the leader in tacklers. So I don't want to get into that whole debate whether or not that's a big thing or not. I do think he got some junk tackles, but he was around the ball quite a bit, is a factor as well. Caleb Perry, another option, as well as 4-star freshman Edwin Spillman. That's at the linebacker room. So even without Beasley, I think we would have argued was Tennessee's best linebacker. Maybe you would have said Peely headed into the 2023 season. But you lose Beasley, but you might be better at linebacker as long as they stay healthy. I don't think they're incredibly deep at that position.
No, they're not that deep. And we saw this. They weren't that deep, but they're deeper than last year. And they suffered like one of the...
I felt like I say too deep. I don't even think they were too deep last year. I think they were two linebackers deep. I think it was Peely and Beasley. I think that's as deep as they were.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I was thinking about that last night. I've never seen a set of linebackers that if you lose one, you're like, uh-oh. I mean, when have you ever seen that in Tennessee football history? I mean, Al Wilson went down in 1998 and they still got the win at Auburn with him cheering them on from the sideline. I mean, when have you ever seen Tennessee field a football team that has two competent linebackers? That's what they went into last season, is two competent linebackers. Now, you would have had Arian Carter, but he was a freshman and he ended up getting banged up. Elijah Herring, jury out. I feel the same way about you. But when can you remember Tennessee being that thin at linebacker?
Oh, never. And we said going into last year, who were some of the players Tennessee can't afford to lose? Keenan Peely was on that list, and he went down the first game of the year, and Cooper Mays didn't play the first 5 games of the year. They were like top 3. 2 of the top 3 players that we felt Tennessee couldn't lose, and they both went down. By the way, you are right about Al Wilson. That's why, to our debate on Tuesday, he could never make the most valuable player in Tennessee history. He didn't even play half the season, and Tennessee still won the national title. So just wanted to throw that out
half
there.
The season, that's an exaggeration. All right, looking at the secondary, Tennessee nabbed 3 defensive backs from the transfer portal, and 2 need to be starters. Jermod McCoy, Oregon State, Jalen McMurray, Temple are corners. Jacoby Thomas is a safety. Somehow the Vols were bad in the secondary, and they lost 7 defensive backs from last year's team. I mean, the majority transferred to a Power 5 school.
Wait,
but
that's the good news for Tennessee. I always laugh when people...
I know, like, that's what I was setting you up with. That is the bizarre thing, is they might actually be better after losing 7.
Well, I always joked about this because back in the day, who remember? I mean, who still gets the college football magazines? I don't anymore. I don't get Lindy, Street Smith.
I almost bought one out of pure nostalgia the other last year. It would have been last year. I remember last June or July seeing one, and we were at media days. It's when we had stopped for gas or stopped at, maybe you weren't even with me, but I remember thinking I was going to buy you one, and
I loved those. Remember how epic you looked forward to? I would stack them, and like my favorite thing with all of them, when they'd all do these rankings, they'd all come out with things. Phil Steele was the most accurate, funny enough, but they would all they all had like returning starters into their formula. I'm like, guys, returning starters only matters if your starters are good. Okay, if your starters suck, you don't want them returning. And you saw that all the time. I remember there was one year, I think it was 2004. Vanderbilt was returning every starter, and you had everybody saying, Vanderbilt's going to make a bowl this year. They're going to make their first bowl in a long time. And, of course, they didn't make a bowl because those returning starters were terrible. And Jay Cutler was their quarterback, and Jay Cutler is not a leader.
But they tried incredibly hard, Caleb.
I mean, they probably are all making more money than we are now, working in finance or accounting or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah. And, they probably played the stock market and got rich. But, yes, on the football field, they were laughable.
All right, let's take a look at Tennessee special teams previews by Josh Ward. We certainly appreciate that. It's on offthehooksports.com right now. So check that out. But first, the one, the only Jacob Warren says,
"What's up, everybody? This is Jacob Warren asking you to like, subscribe, and share. Dave needs this."
all right, thank you very much. Tennessee didn't get all they could have out of their special teams in 2023. Williams, to me, was a special playmaker. So he's a special teams player. I thought he should have touched the ball some on offense. I also thought he had a couple more returns in him. I was surprised he didn't break more. I thought he looked like a guy who gets loose on 6, 8, 10. I think he probably got loose on 4 to 6. Am I wrong that D. Williams looked the part but didn't have quite the production that I thought he would, or did I have the bar set too high?
No, I think that D. Williams didn't have the impact. He had the impact one game. That was the Texas A&M game, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And where Heupel made the greatest decision. And guys, this is where Heupel's genius shows. Go back and look at that D. Williams punt return. Josh Heupel, they were punting from their own end zone. Typically, when somebody's punting from their own end zone, you go for the block, right, Dave?
Yes, and he set up the return, yes.
Yes, he set up the return, but everybody on Texas A&M stayed back worrying about the block, so that D. Williams had nothing but green. It was genius by Josh Heupel. I mean, that's the type of stuff that you would never see a former Tennessee football coach do, and maybe Lane Kiffin, but that's where his intellect really shows. I think this year, I think D. Williams didn't make the same impact outside of that, but I don't think it matters because there's a guy we talked about yesterday, starting probably at safety as a freshman, who is going to be all-world as a returner, and I think Dave knows who we're talking about.
Yes. Who would that be?
It's going to be somebody's Boo.
You think Boo Carter might be the return man?
I think Boo Carter could be an All-American return specialist.
Okay. Can he be better than D. Williams? Because I thought D was gonna be pretty good.
D who? Sorry.
Portions of the program. Yeah, I see what you're doing. I do think that D was going to be. I thought D was going to be very good. So you think Carter will be better than him?
I think Boo Carter is going to be a generational return specialist. Look, I am putting a bunch of expectations on Boo Carter because by proxy, that's putting a bunch of expectations on the coaches. Because if he doesn't turn out to be as good as I'm saying, then that's a major indictment of the coaches and their talent evaluation with the way they're propping him up. And so, I'm putting him high as a return specialist. And so, I think Boo Carter I think he could do what D. Williams did.
Okay. It's pretty strong. Portions of the program brought to you by the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety. I've got some news for you here momentarily dealing with Tennessee's place kicking duties. The Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED. That's HOOKED. And you will get a 20%, off your order. Use the promo code HOOKED. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Josh Turbeville handled kickoff duties. He has an extremely strong leg, but a couple did sell out of bounds. So he is the man who's tabbed to be Tennessee's place kicker now with Charles Campbell gone. Are you concerned about the fact that he had at least 3 kickoffs that went out of bounds? I am not, because a source told me just last week that he actually had a bone issue in his kicking foot, and it was causing some pain, but he was still the best choice compared to Campbell to handle kickoffs because of his strong leg. So I don't think that will be an issue, his accuracy this upcoming year. At least you won't have the foot that'll be a factor on it, Caleb.
Yeah, that's actually that's a very good sign. So they'll probably use him.
Explains a lot. When somebody told me that last week, I thought it explained. It was Friday evening, a source I bumped into. I thought that explained a lot because he was money. Turbeville was in high school as a place kicker.
So that's the question. Do you think because of his leg being so strong, he could actually become the place kicker too, like the actual field goal kicker beyond just being a kickoff specialist?
I was told that's the plan.
That is the plan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, yeah, look, I mean, Tennessee has it. Brent Samaglia had a strong leg, and he was very good one year. But field goal kicking, I'm always, I used to say accuracy matters, but I feel like accuracy is easier to pick up in field goal kicking than the leg strength. Honestly, I could be wrong on that, but I feel like if you have the leg power, you can actually train yourself with accuracy.
I could see that. I mean, you only have so much leg strength, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
you only have so much
At the
leg
end of the day, Caleb's only going to be able to squat so much weight, and I'm going to be able to squat so much weight. I don't care if we work out for years. Usually you hit your peak around 3 or 4 years if we started doing that. What do you think you could get for the record in a squat?
I genuinely have no idea. I'm so out of shape. I'm
not
a workout warrior like Dave. Such a meathead over there.
I can bench more than I squat, man. My legs are awful. If I wasn't fat, I'd have bird legs. All right. What about kickoff return? Any thoughts on kickoff return as we preview?
I think kickoff and punt return will be the same. It'll be. I'm still going Boo Carter or Squirrel White. I think you go for, and I'm very big on this, and coaches disagree with me all the time. They try to save their weapons so they don't get hurt. I think that's so stupid. You put your best weapons on kickoff and punt return. Changes the game so significantly, right?
Yep. Great write-up by Josh. I'm just going to read it verbatim. He writes, Spring star Boo Carter needs to be the pick here. With Williams gone, Tennessee needs a playmaker to step into the punt return role. That creates a perfect opportunity for Carter, one of the nation's most electrifying athletes in the 2024 signing class, and a natural playmaker with the ball in his hands. Great debate over whether Carter belongs on defense or offense. I can go ahead and tell you that's going to be defense and strong safety. I think he'll start out on defense. I promise you that. Josh writing, he was built to star as a return man for Tennessee. And I can't argue that. I think that's the next kind of phase for Tennessee. Let's remember this, too. If we talk about D. Williams didn't hit his potential as a return man because he didn't have 10, 12, 14 fantastic returns during his career. What are special teams made of for the most part, Caleb? Can we do a little football one-on-one here?
Kicking, punting, returning. I'm not sure what you're asking.
No, they're mostly they're the linebackers, running back types.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
they're the guys that are in 6'1" range, 200, 210, 220 pounds. Maybe your outside guys, your gunners are a little bit lighter, but those are the type of athletes you're looking for. Those are the type of athletes that if you're Alabama in the middle of their run, you have a parking lot full of those dudes. If you're Tennessee and you're not, you don't. So special teams messes up all the time. Rising tide lifts all boats. Did I get it right?
Yeah, you said it right.
Okay. It is no more evident than on special teams, both return and coverage, because you just have more athletes to choose from, period. And Tennessee should be at that point.
Yeah, that's a good point. But if you have, what you also have, and we're forgetting this because we have to mention him before we get out of here on this, is if you have good kickers, your coverage can be irrelevant. You don't really need your coverage because they can make up for lack of coverage. So if Josh Turbyville's leg heals and Tennessee won't need much kick return coverage or kickoff coverage because they'll kick it out of the back of the end zone, I don't think they're going to need much punt coverage, return coverage this year with Jackson Ross. I think Jackson Ross is going to turn into the best punter in college football, and we might see a Ray Guy Award finalist in Jackson Ross this year.
Well, I'm not arguing with that, but I would even say in the return game, I would rather have the better athlete than the team who's covering, because I want to have good feet, loose hips, fast speed to be able to block the guy who's trying to tackle my return guy. So I think it helps you all around, not just.
Yeah. So the athlete, you're saying half of great returning is not the returner themselves, but the guys that you have doing the blocking for you.
Maybe not half, but pretty close. Maybe pretty close.
That's fair. Now, question though. So honestly, do you think Jackson Ross can win a game for Tennessee this year, the way Dustin Colquitt did in 2003?
I think so.
As a punter?
I think so. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. We're going to visit with Ron Slay here in just a matter of moments. Stay tuned. This is a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Sand and salt water, the beach is a very relaxing place. Unless you wear contacts. Ow! Open your eyes to the best the beach has to offer with LASIK vision correction from Campbell Cunningham Laser Center.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
We absolutely love visiting with this guy. Ron Slay joins us now. I had my times messed up a little bit, but Ron's with us now. Ron, I have to be honest with you. I'm flattered because, I mean, you're pretty big time nowadays. And I thought being in Nashville and having the SEC tournament there that maybe you'd be big time and Off the Hook Sports would be like the least little blip on your radar.
Hey, man, listen here, man. I ain't going to never pass up a time to have a good time. So this is a part of my good time regardless. It's Tennessee roots. So how could I not? How could I not come on?
I love it. I love it. Hey,
you always have a good time with hookers, right?
Hey,
yep. Hey, Ron, can I have so every Friday on we've got our Patreon group. It's Hooker's Corner, and you too can be a John for just $9.98 a month if you choose to. And we give away prizes. Can you cut me a deal on one of your Boom Boom Room shirts? And I can give away that as our weekly prize.
Yeah, I got you. Just let me know. Let me know what size you need, and I'm sending it through. You know that.
All right. Well, I'll be glad to pay for it, but that's what we're going to give away today. So we'll do that.
Sounds good.
Let me ask you about Tennessee and a potential number 1 seed before we get to the matchups that lie ahead in the tournament. Do you believe that if it came down to Tennessee and North Carolina for a 1 seed in the tournament, that being a blue blood, being North Carolina, would give the Tar Heels an advantage, all other things being equal?
Yeah, the majority of the time. That's part of it. That's the tradition and the wall that you're fighting through regardless. Also, if you were to look back at it, if you were just going off the conference and the strength of it, I would think you would give it to Tennessee without question. But that blue blood, regardless if they have 3 teams to go from the ACC, that blue blood holds a lot of weight. And I think you see that we've had these discussions before, not only about the number 1 seed, but also about Dalton Connect in this National Player of the Year conversation. If he was on that squad, if this was North Carolina, do you think for 1 second anybody would be scratching their head thinking that Dalton Connect may be a runner-up or maybe 3rd? No, it would be evident that he would be number 1, and it would be because of that blue blood tag.
You posted that at one point, and I was so on board with that. I was busy that day, didn't have time to write a column, but you're absolutely right. Can I throw it? I'm sure you guys at 104.5 The Zone talk a lot of college football expansion and the SEC and what they've done, and the Big Ten and what they've done. But I'm as you know, a football guy, but I actually, my expansion would be basketball related. Here's what I would do. We all agree that at the very least, the SEC is one of the top 2 football conferences, right? It's number 1.
Yeah, number 1 ain't no top 2.
Okay.
Top 2 and they not 2.
Yeah, okay. So the teams I'm going to get, if I expand, are North Carolina, which everybody wants, but I'm not throwing in another ACC team. It's Duke. Because if I throw in North Carolina, Duke, and Kentucky, and then Tennessee, which has an underrated basketball tradition, suddenly you are the best basketball conference and the best football conference. Am I wrong, Ron?
No, that is a drastic shift in the powers. Good gosh. You talk about bringing on Texas and Oklahoma in football, and that right there, I think, would rival it when you have that opportunity to bring those 2 on, man. Good gosh. I can't even imagine. I always poke and tease Commissioner Sankey that when I was first went to SEC football media day, I was like, man, this is different. And when he came on our show, I was like, man, Commissioner Sankey, this conference got the right logo. It does. It just means more. And I put apostrophe in, my apostrophe, a comma in football. It just means more in football. I said, because I remember coming to SEC Media Day in basketball, and it wasn't nowhere near this. You know what I'm saying? So that was pretty dope to see. And I think you would notice it on fronts just like that. As far as the national coverage, it wouldn't be just a one-day situation walking in. You would have to separate it because you would need time to cover all these guys and have them to hit all the media outlets that are going to be there to cover them. That's woo. And imagine what the SEC is now in football, and you see what happens when they pour more into the basketball. You have this different type of level of excitement around it and coverage around it. To add those 2 teams, I honestly don't know what the ACC does. If you were ever to take Duke and Carolina and Virginia got great, the ACC got great history. Syracuse joining them and all of that. They're like, man, you take them 2, that whole league might crumble.
Well, the ACC is like the ex-wife at that point. Who cares what they do?
This is very true. we would send them alimony, and we on to the next.
Right. Have your lawyer contact my lawyer.
There you go.
Well, Ron, I actually want to get into the business of this because part of what they're trying to do with the ACC, and this is, I can tell you what's happening behind the scenes.
Okay.
Florida, they want to get enough schools to agree to leave to where they can vote to destroy the ACC on the way out. All they need is a simple majority.
Yeah.
Now, to get the simple majority, enough schools have to know that they have a safe place to go if they leave the ACC. So I do think that it's funny you bring this up because now the SEC's play, it can't just be the SEC. They got to work with the Big Ten and they got to work with the Big 12 to try to say, hey, guys, let's poach some of these schools so we can get our schools. So you guys might be onto something with North Carolina and Duke because Duke's going to be one of those schools that holds out for a minute to say, wait a minute, we don't know if we'd have a home somewhere if we left. North Carolina's safe, Virginia's safe, Florida State's safe, Clemson's safe. Those are the 4 big ones that are safe. I think Virginia Tech is safe. They'll get a spot. So do you think the ACC can get, you would now have, I guess, 18, or no, you have 16 schools in the ACC? Something, I don't know the number. Do you think they can get to a simple majority of schools that will have a home if you nuke the ACC and just drop a bomb on it?
Yeah, I think so. Regionally, it makes sense. My question would be about the big schools, though. Like, where would they go to? Would they feel more inclined to have be independent as Notre Dame is in football? I almost think that if they wanted to, North Carolina and Duke could just go out there and stand on their own and, play and, you still get in tournaments and do the things kind of like Notre Dame does. But The rest of them, man, it would be like the Virginia Techs. Like, what do they do? Do they just crumble on off like?
I think they'd have a home in the Big 12.
You think? Are you? First of all, Caleb, are you just brushing them along in the Big 12? Like, y'all take these scraps, or are you really thinking that Virginia Tech has a home in the Big 12? I'm not sure that. I'm not sure that the Big 12 would be that welcoming where they leave the porch light on for Virginia Tech to walk in there. But I could be wrong.
Well, think about it. Virginia Tech, West Virginia was an old school rivalry, so that could be the rivalry of the Appalachia, and you get the Virginia market, which is a huge market. So I'm just throwing things out.
On the
other end, how much would this increase respect for somebody like Tennessee? In the sense of if North Carolina, Duke are in the SEC, I floated to Dave. Tennessee is dangerously close to like being blue blood caliber in basketball. I think they're a national title away.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if North Carolina were in the SEC, couldn't Tennessee, North Carolina become one of the biggest rivalries in basketball overnight?
Absolutely. And I think the only problem with that, and this just may be an old school feel, my era type thing. I think that when you look at it, Tennessee, I wouldn't be comfortable riding on the coattails of Carolina and getting that acknowledgement. I still would be beckoning for them to get a national championship, to be able to stand on their own, and then say, the headliner is who's the better team, instead of it being North Carolina being the headliner because they're going to grab the press regardless if they're in the conference or not. Tennessee, when you mention them with a national title, they could be the headliner. I think with the fan base, with the energy, with the money and everything, the support behind it, they could stand alone and be like, oh, no, we're going to decide what we're going to play. Instead of with North Carolina, them having the 60-40, 65-35 split, the way it would go as far as attention put on it.
As far as recruiting, you were a smart guy in recruiting. I've covered some other guys that I don't know that they necessarily knew who the upcoming team they were committing to was going to play that year. Terrell Owens showed up at UTC thinking it was the University of Tennessee. But anyway, Ron, how much of a factor would it be in recruiting if somebody said you're going to play at Cameron Indoor, you're going to play at the Dean Dome? I mean, to me, that'd be monstrous.
Now, I would love that. And you got to think that's having the wherewithal, like you said, a guy that's knowing about the history of the game and people walking into it. I'm not sure if I was 19 now, would that still hold the same credibility or same energy that it would for me coming up. You look at it in the way these younger generation athletes play, they're everywhere as far as EYBL circuits and things of that nature. They play in little big arenas and they'll play in a small gym just to get the field. I think it's more so about the exposure for them, more so than it is about the tradition and the history of the gym. But me, man, I remember us getting the opportunity. Coach Smith took us up to, we were going to see Will Avery play when he played for Duke. And we had the opportunity to go in there and practice. And dog, when we were practicing, like I walked in and was in awe. Like, dude, this is it. I'm not sure that same feel happens with this younger generation. I also remember we had an opportunity to practice at Temple when we went to go see Big Kevin Ladd play. Who was a center with Coach Chaney, and walking in there, I could feel it. I knew the history of it. Aaron McKee and guys like that. I knew that history. So I'm not sure coming from the South and regionally, would they understand it going up to Philly and watching teams like that play?
Yeah, that's a shame too, because
I've
always said you can take Michigan, Ohio State in football. You could take the Yankees and Red Sox in baseball. But Duke, North Carolina, to me, when they play, you go out of your way to watch that because it lives up to the billing more than any other rivalry in sports.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Getting the opportunity to walk on the floor in the Dean Dome, man. I remember looking at my teammates like, dog, y'all feel that bounce in the floor? Y'all like, this is what Jordan was taking off. Like, this is what worked. Like, it was amazing, man. Like, it was mind blowing. And I think but you see that with the recruiting. Like, it used to be one thing, even with Coach Foreman, that's what Coach Foreman used to live by. Let us get them on campus and we'll have them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you look in basketball and you would think, man, let me get them on a recruiting visit, get them to Chapel Hill. Let me get them to Durham. Like, this going to seal the deal. I don't necessarily seal it no more. You know, so it's wild to think that, but yeah.
Ron, I'm going to ask you one last question. We'll give you a second to think about it. And Ron, the SEC tournament matters because, and the show represented by Banks and Jones. So give me 60 seconds, and then Ron will answer that. The SEC tournament matters because Banks and Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. All right, Ron, why does the SEC tournament matter?
It matters mostly because you give an opportunity for these teams that are bubble teams to go out and improve themselves and be able to win one or two games and pop that bubble. You look at what Texas A&M and Mississippi State were able to do last night. They get a win, and they automatically, looking at what Joe Lunardi is forecasting with the other losses, are automatically in because of the strength of the SEC. You look anywhere else on night two, can you get a quad one win on a neutral site? That's different. The magnitude that the SEC brings and holds is totally different. And then also, when you look at it, it's the best conference in the nation, and you get all of them under one roof. Where else in the country did you have 6 teams vying for a number 1 seed in the conference tournament? That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. These are 12, 13 win teams, man, in any league in the country. You just don't find that anywhere. Big 12, Big East, any of that place. It's always top heavy. That's not the case. Also, you get an opportunity to see where teams are going, as far as teams like Georgia with Mike White, McMahon down at LSU, all these other teams. You look back at it last year at Lamont Paris, I think a lot of that was looked at what South Carolina did, and people were wondering, man, how the hell is he going to get this team together? And you bounce back, and lo and behold, he was 1 game out from winning the number 1 seed. But you can see it and be able to talk to these guys and get a feel for the players. It's a different exposure and a different energy in the SEC tournament.
All right, Ron. Ron.
I'm a John. I'm looking for hookers. Anybody know where they are?
All right, so
why don't you engage?
I do not mind. I certainly do not mind paying you for a shirt, but here we go. A boom boom shirt. We're going to go ahead and roll right here as we'll find out who the winner is. Also, this month in March, you can win a Brew McCoy autographed mini helmet. The winner is Joe.
Hey, Joe and John.
All right, Joe. Give me Joe and John. It's the Jimmys and Joes. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
it's the Jimmys and Joes, Ron, not the X's and O's, right?
All of them. All of them invited.
Hey, get out of here, buddy. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you for making time.
All right, no doubt, baby.
I'll talk to you about the shirt. Ron Slade, the vest, will take care of him. And I remind you, the portions of the program are brought to you by our good friends there in North Knoxville, in Clinton Selection, unmatched Ray Varner Ford.
Welcome to Ray Varner Ford in Clinton, where every turn meets new possibilities and every mile celebrates the cutting-edge innovation within our Ford lineup. Elevate your journey in this new 2023 F-150 4x4 Super Cab, $44,992. A 2023 Ford Escape all-wheel drive, $30,952. 2023 F-150 4x4 Super Crew XLT, $54,900. Local you trust, innovation you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
All right, so look at what we got. We got Greg Sankey that wants to make some changes to the NCAA basketball tournament, and he wants to cut out some of the smaller conferences from having that automatic bid. What is your initial take on that, Caleb? Because that would seriously turn the basketball world in terms of the tournament on its ear. I don't think there's any question about that.
So let me give the exact quote that Greg Sankey said. And this isn't an ESPN article just about the future of the NCAA tournament, will they go to larger leagues or whatever. And Greg Sankey started talking about all these close competitive games within top 50 schools. And he said, quote, "We are giving away highly competitive opportunities for automatic qualifiers from smaller leagues. And I think that pressure is going to rise as we have more competitive basketball leagues at the top end because of expansion," unquote. What Greg Sankey is saying is I want to nix the automatic qualifiers from lower leagues to get more SEC teams in. Guys, I told you last year, I told you when I started this show, Greg Sankey doesn't care about what you love about college sports. He cares about lining his pockets, and he is willing to destroy everything you love about college sports for that reason. This would absolutely wreck March Madness. Could you imagine if this philosophy and what he's talking about actually happened? Every team from the SEC with a winning record in basketball would make the NCAA tournament. Why have a regular season? Just throw out the regular season and start March Madness in freaking December and have a 300-something team tournament and just go from there. What's the point? Greg Sankey's trying to kill every regular season in college sports because he wants to line his pockets with a big postseason that involves every SEC team. This is a terrible idea, and it's just another piece of the pie to show that every person running college sports right now doesn't care about what you love about college sports. They care about what makes them richer.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
You are
Portions
ridiculous.
of the program. Yeah, portions of the program brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry. How about the Fire Opals, the Tennessee tradition? RickTerryJewelry.com, RickTerryJewelry.com. Tell them that Off the Hook Sports sent you. Support our sponsors. That's why we're here. I want the top 64 teams, no matter what conference they're in. As far as automatic bids, how many automatic bids are there now? About 30, correct?
34. I think 33.
I think we would agree that there are probably, let's say, 12 that are very, very deserved, like SEC, ACC, right? They're probably 12, and then they're probably a third of those, or we could make an argument about, right? Like the Colonial and stuff like that. If you cut those out, those, let's say 12 teams, to have 12 better teams, and it's by some sort of RPI, that's what I would go for. And I like quality. I want more quality, like Quality Tire Pro in Chattanooga. Stop by and say, hey, Bo, because they do full service automotive brakes, alignments, oil changes as well. Downtown Chattanooga Quality Tire Pro. Say, hey, Bo, tell them Off the Hook Sports sent you. I want more quality, Caleb Calhoun, and that would do it.
So, Dave, you want teams that go 20 or 16 and 14 to get to the NCAA tournament from the SEC? You want that?
They have a tougher road to hoe, yes.
What's the point of the regular season? Just get rid of it. What you're saying would just nuke the regular season. What is the point? You just talked about the spectacle of UNC Duke. That game's already stupid when both teams are going to the NCAA tournament. Okay?
I just completely disagree with that. I love that game. That's an awesome spectacle. I love it. If they're in the ACC finals, and I know that both teams are still going to make the NCAA tournament and potentially play again, I still watch it. I go out of my way. It means something.
You are going to kill the sport. If you ruin regular seasons, you kill the sport. It's the number one reason baseball's collapsing right now. They decided back in the 90s or back in the 2010s, let's let 12 teams make the playoffs. This is so stupid. Expanded. What is up with the obsession with expanded? Because this is basically an expanded playoff for the big teams. Okay. What is up with the obsession with letting more teams with mediocre records in? What's the point of the regular season? I'm honestly asking this question. Why have it? Why have the regular season?
Well, I still think there are 300 basketball teams. So if you did an RPI approach, like I would do with not just basketball, I would do with football. I wouldn't do the selection committee. If I were in charge of this, it would be an RPI type of approach. Caleb, if you did that, you'd still have the top 64 teams. So you would have to play yourself into that position. So the regular season still does matter. Now, if you want to throw a really, really challenging argument at me, then throw this at me. The winner of a particularly small conference, no matter what they do because of who they play, can't climb the RPI ladder and can never be a factor when it comes to actually making the tournament. So in other words, if you're a very small school that plays a weak schedule, winning your conference tournament doesn't matter at all. So I want you to chew on that while I tell you Sports Treasures carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, Sports Treasures TN, Sports Treasures TN, daily updates follow. So out of that 300 and some Division I basketball programs that you have right now, there's probably 50, 80, maybe even more that it doesn't matter what they do, they can't make the tournament. That is the one really bad part. I was going to use another bad word about my argument. That is the one really bad part.
I mean, you're right. What's the point of them even playing? I mean, and this is the
well,
thing.
I mean,
by the way,
there's still a point of like the top 200 playing because they could put themselves in that position, right?
No, because they go look at the BPI and look at the RPI. They're all from the power conferences that we talk about, outside of Gonzaga, maybe, or like those like 4 or 5 teams. They're almost all from there. So what you're talking about is, first of all, if you want to do this, if you want to keep these teams out, fine, kick them out. Then only go to 32 teams in the NCAA tournament. Don't expand the tournament to allow these lesser teams that didn't do their job in the SEC or whatever. My point is this: at least with these smaller conferences getting in, you put inherent value on the regular season with auto bids. If you get rid of auto bids and just say take the top whatever, there you totally devalue the regular season across the board. I want the regular season to mean something. This is my thing with football, and we'll get to in a little while, but I'll just stick with basketball right now. This is why I hate when teams complain about not getting into the NCAA tournament. You always hear the 69th best team complain. You go to 80, you're going to hear the 81st best team complain. You had how many chances to get in? I think the NCAA tournament is absolutely ridiculous when you have this many teams. What's the point? And this is the problem with the NBA. Everybody's like, oh, the Lakers and Celtics is such a great rivalry. Yeah, when it's in the NBA Finals. When's the last Lakers-Celtics regular season game anybody has ever cared about?
I go out of my way to watch that game.
Okay, and you don't really care. There's no intensity.
But I'm
there.
a Celtics fan. But to your point, I'm a Celtics fan. So I mean, and then you
and
had
if they lose, you're not.
And really, you have so much star power. I mean, when they played, when's the last time that you haven't had an All-Pro type of player? I mean, that the two franchises are run to the point that they're star power. So you could want to watch that game on a Sunday afternoon, even if you don't like either team, right? So. Again, I completely get your point. I want to see the 64 best teams, and listen,
I want to see the 30 best teams.
Okay, Gonzaga is a great example. Okay, Gonzaga, unlike football, in basketball, you can make yourself a real program. I mean, Gonzaga is not a mid-major. Let's just stop calling them a mid-major. They spent big-time money, 8 digits, to be a basketball program. Now, can they spend closer to 9 digits to be a football program like TCU's trying to do? That's a lot more difficult. And some of those can't do that in football. But you can't tell me you can't do that in basketball. You can. You can turn yourself into, if not a blue blood, then somebody that matters. Tennessee has done that over time. They may not be a blue blood, but they matter. And I'm sorry, if you can't do that and you can't put yourself in the pertinent 100, let's call them, or the pertinent 150, then you don't get to be in the tournament. So therefore, I think my regular season matters quite a bit, Caleb, and I think you're overly discounting it.
No, because the rating draws in the regular season. All right, let's talk about ratings and actual interest. Let's be honest here. These smaller conferences that get to the tournament, nobody's watching their regular seasons, right? At all, anyway. That's not what really matters.
When you say nobody, you don't mean fans of their program, but
yes, just in general, average fans. Okay. The point of the auto bids is to make the regular season matter more for the big name teams, so not everybody from the power conferences get in. If your way happens, you're going to collapse. First of all, let's get this out of the way. College basketball regular season already sucks. It's the worst regular season in any sport, okay? It's terrible. It's boring because nobody cares because we all know that the top teams when we're watching them are going to the tournament.
It's about to go through a renaissance, though.
Sorry?
It's about to go through a renaissance.
No, it's not. No, it's not because every team's still getting in.
Nope.
I don't care about the quality of the talent. The top 10 teams are all getting in. Who cares?
No, wait and see.
Dave, you would have me.
Wait and see. Let me explain to you why. Because a little bit before your time, when I was your age, slightly younger, I knew the starting lineup for Duke and North Carolina heading into every season. NIL is going to allow you to keep more players. There's going to be better narratives year to year. I'm telling you, college basketball, the regular season is about to get a lot better. You could still argue that it's not good enough, but in 5 years, the college basketball regular season is going to be much more engaging and entertaining than it is right now. And I would defy you to argue with that.
All right, Dave. You say
By
that.
the way, I'm going to pull up. You finish your point. I'm going to pull up our friends at TristarHatsCo.com so you can check out some of those spring styles. Go ahead.
Dave, it didn't even matter. There's no renaissance to undergo because it didn't even matter in 1990. You may say what you're saying about Duke and North Carolina, Dave, right now. When you were a kid, tell me the most memorable college basketball regular season game you watched. Has to be regular season. Can't be NCAA tournament.
Well, that's fair. It'd probably be the Midnight Madness with Tony Harris.
That's not even a game. I know. You can't even name a regular season game that you watched that you remember.
It would have been any of those. It would have been any of those Tennessee, Kentucky games that they always had on Saturday. That seemed.
And you can't name one specifically. You can't even name one specifically.
No, I can't. No, I'll give you that.
Caleb is right. The regular season has been irrelevant in college.
Somebody who was paid to cover football. I mean, this is the time.
Let me ask you this, Dave.
It's the time of year that I only covered basketball for 5 years. I was getting ready for spring practice. By the way, TristarHatsCo.com is on your screen if you're on our video platform. Go to TristarHatsCo.com. We thank our friends at Apex Apparel for bringing us the opportunity to provide you with the absolute best. TristarHatsCo.com, TriStar Hats, and I've got my shirt on right now. TriStar Hats is fantastic apparel. Spring styles are out. Okay, Caleb, finish your thoughts.
You are going to destroy the basketball regular season is already destroyed. You are going to destroy it further because it's the automatic qualifiers, Dave, is not about getting those automatic qualifiers in. It's about making sure that mediocre power teams don't get in. That 16 and 14 teams in the SEC don't get in because then those teams are never going to. You want to talk about load management? You're going to set up a system where starters won't play half the year in college basketball because they know they're going to the NCAA tournament. You're setting up that system with what you're doing because here's the point. There's no home court advantage in basketball at all. So seeding doesn't matter. Seeding is the stupidest, most overrated thing in this. They say, oh, you're playing for the number one seed. You're playing for the higher seed. You have something to play for. Who cares? Okay.
Right voice there.
This is a big deal. The regular season is already borderline dead in college basketball, and people only watch the next 3 weeks. I can tell you this, guys, we cover college basketball. Dave and I will tell you straight up. We'll just tell you. Football beats basketball year-round except in the 3 weeks in March. Is that fair to say, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody cares about the college basketball regular season. You're now going to get it to a point. I'm just saying, if they do this, I won't even talk about the college basketball regular season ever again. No one come talking to me about it because I don't care because everybody's going into the tournament anyway. Okay, you're ruining the sport. And this is Greg Sankey doing it for himself. And I'm just going to be, Dave, I'm asking you, do you think Greg Sankey cares about the long-term health of these sports? Or does he care about lining his pockets?
I think he cares about the long-term health of the sport.
No, he cares about lining his pockets.
No,
he doesn't care about the long-term health of the sport. This will kill the sport.
I think they're mutually adherent.
No.
I think that
nobody's going to watch the regular season of college basketball with this. Just like nobody watches the Daytona 500 anymore because it's not part of the Chase Cup.
If you want to paint me in the minority, you can. But I think Nick Saban was being altruistic when he talked to Congress. I think Greg Sankey is altruistic. I think he has the best interest of the SEC at heart when he makes decisions. I don't think it's about him. He's already got plenty of money. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker.
Wait. Whoa.
What?
College football playoff. We still got college football playoff news. I was trying to tell you about that. The college football playoff
go with college football playoff news. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes. College football playoff is expanding. It's official. They're expanding to 14 teams, which is another feather in my cap of they're destroying the sport.
Okay, so that's just coming down the pike. 14 teams in and of itself, aside from destroying the regular season. What do you make of that number?
Well, so here's what's happening. Basically, Pete Thamel reported it. Heather Dennis reported it. They basically have come to the agreement, and it's going to be reported later today at some point. But their format has not been specified yet, but it's all but written in stone that the auto bids, I believe what I've read is that the auto bids with the college football playoff it's not going to go immediately to the SEC and the Big Ten for the first round buys. Basically, all they had to hash out was the television agreement and the agreements between the conferences. And so I think this is disastrous for college
May I ask
football.
a question? Can we stop? Because I'm sure we're going to get your opinion on it. But why did we even say 12 to 14 in the first place? Can somebody tell me the impetus behind that notion? Why somebody raised their hand in a room and said, hey, I'd like to go to 12 to 14. Second, anybody? Why did this happen in the first place?
This is going to be formalized in 2026. I think the biggest reason it happened is because the SEC and Big Ten realized that by going to 12 teams, they totally devalued their conference championship games. And they want those to matter. So they're like, oh, let's do 14 to reserve buys for them. Guys, it's not stopping at 14. This has been my argument the whole time against expansion. You guys thought, oh, they'll stop. They won't stop. They're never going to stop because they realize there's more money in the postseason.
Okay, so do you think impetus, not impotence? Do you think some of the message for it? Do you think that meeting between the Big Ten and the SEC was essentially about this? I think we all thought that maybe that meeting was about a mega conference, but maybe it was as simple as just being about this. Let's make sure to get Big Ten number 2 and SEC number 2 in the playoff. Was it as simple as that? I think it was probably more that than any sort of mega conference talk.
It was about revenue and money. They wanted they floated that to get shot down so they could fight for more revenue. And guess what? They're getting more revenue. The Big Ten and the SEC.
But I'm talking about the meeting while they got together. Everything's about revenue. But the meeting when they got together about 2 or 3 weeks ago, was that?
Yes.
I thought at the time that was about a mega conference, and I was excited because I thought that snowball was starting to go downhill, but I'm cooling on that now. I think it was just about working this 14-team playoff out.
Yes, exactly. And so that you're right. And that's exactly what this is about. And just for the revenue distribution, the Big Ten and the SEC would each receive 29% of the base revenue of the college football playoff. Big 12 and ACC, 17% and 14.7% respectively. 9% for the group of 5, 1% for Notre Dame, and less than 1% for UConn, Oregon State, and Washington State if any of them get in. So the Big Ten and the SEC were trying to negotiate, saying we want a bigger piece of the college football playoff revenue.
Okay, so I know this is hard for you, but I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Will you do that?
Yep.
Okay. I know it may destroy the regular season, but as far as the actual format, and let's say that some of these SEC and Big Ten teams are locked in like we've been led to believe, do you believe, Caleb, that this is a good format in 30 seconds or less?
I believe this is a good format in terms of for fun. I think it's terrible for the sport. It's a fun format during December, because it's going to make for December games that are going to be epic.
Like around Thanksgiving and Christmas when you get the cousins together and did you ever do the bracket? Like this would be fun, but you don't think it's necessarily good for the sport. So it's fun. I got you. I see where you're coming from.
Yes, it's fun, but you just sacrificed 3 months of what we love about the sport for 3 weeks. Okay, fine. By the way, bowl games are the new NIT. Bowl games are the new NIT.
They always were to me. For Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation of Off the